Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining the International Relations Council for tonight's Lexicon series on the Dutch language with featured host Wim van Klinken. Wim van Klinken, a full-time minister, serves as Chief Information and Technology Officer at the International Headquarters of Community of Christ and as a member of the Midland Mission Center's Financial Officer team. He holds the priesthood office of bishop. Wim was born and raised in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. After a career as an entrepreneur in IT, Wim started working for Community of Christ as president of the Europe Mission Center in 2004. 3 years later, he, his wife Debora, and son Max moved to Kansas City to serve the church in the USA, since he is also very involved in the nonprofit sector of Kansas City. In the Netherlands, Wim obtained degrees in economics, business science, music, asset management, and business administration. In the USA, he obtained a Master's of Art and Religion from Graceland University and an Executive Master's of Public Administration from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Lexicon is a weekly digital interactive program that will introduce you to a language you may not know much about. Each week, IRC members and friends will offer some history and context on a different language, let you sample the look and sounds of the language, and give you some hints on where you can experience more of the language and the culture it represents. My name is Claire Rowe, and I'm an events intern. For those unfamiliar, the IRC is a nonpartisan, apolitical organization that provides a platform for greater understanding of international topics and how they intersect with the Kansas City community. For the most enjoyable event for all involved, please mute yourself if you are not speaking. And if you choose to enable your video, which we hope you will do, please make sure you are in a well-lit area free from distractions. You can enable and disable these features in the bottom left corner of your screen. We will be recording today's event and broadcasting live on Facebook. So if you'd like to review this conversation at a later date or share it with someone you think might enjoy it, feel free to visit our YouTube or Facebook page. If you are not comfortable being recorded, simply keep your microphone and camera off. Lastly, if you'd like to check out and connect with the IRC, please feel free to log on to our website at irckc.org, which will also be available in the chat box. We encourage you to check it out if you are interested in joining as a member, receiving our newsletter, and exploring other upcoming events. Thank you again for joining us, and now let's get it started and turn it over to Wim.
Thank you, Claire. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you and also to be good with those who will join later, probably watching the recorded session. As Claire already said, my name is Wim van Klinken and I'm from the Netherlands. And my native language is Dutch, which we still speak at home. And I'm still watching Dutch television here from the Netherlands. I live in Kansas City. And watch also monitor Dutch newspapers online. So my name Wim van Klinken is probably a starter in introduction to the Dutch already. Wim is a very common name in the Netherlands. I would say that's the most appropriate abbreviation of William. It's the Dutch equivalent of Wim. I never understand why in English the short for William becomes Bill, or the short for Margaret becomes Peggy. In the Dutch, it's far more easy. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I'm proud of my own language. And Van, as you see here on the screen, is spelled with a lower case. It's part of the surname or my family name. You see that often, also in German, for instance, Van. So the difference between Dutch and German and is that in Dutch names, many Dutch names starts with Van. Many German names starts or family names starts with Van, both meaning the same, from or of, like William of Canterbury, the word of. That's why it's also lowercase. Although we realize the more people come, the longer we are in the USA, the more it's being capitalized, as you see with Van Buren, which would be pronounced Van Buren, the former president, or Van Halen, which all becomes capitalized just because Americans, with all due respect, wants to capitalize it all. But DiCaprio, the same thing in Italian, is a lowercase. So it just means Wim from Klinken, and where that name comes, we all guessing in the in our family. But with that said, so Dutch, where is Dutch coming from? It's coming from the Netherlands. So let me just first start Dutch. Dutch has little to do with Pennsylvania Dutch. Pennsylvania Dutch is not Dutch. It's actually a German dialect. So this is also a bit of the confusion, because what does Dutch and the Netherlands have to do with one another? And it's only an issue in English. So why have the English labeled this language spoken in the Netherlands as Dutch? Well, because it's very close to Deutsch, the German um, language, although England, people in England call that German and not Deutsch, as Deutsch, as is, the Deutsch is how Germans refer to their own language. So Dutch is a Germanic language. So if you just have to categorize all languages, and for those who categorize languages, Dutch is a Germanic language. So let's go to where's the Netherlands? And the Netherlands is, I put it here on a circle, is in Western Europe. It's not a Scandinavian country, because Scandinavia is there in the north. And a lot of people even ask me, so you come from Denmark? No, Denmark is another nation, actually. So for those who know their geography a bit, so the Netherlands is on the North Sea, and the North Sea is the sea here east of Great Britain, England. This is the North Sea. So the Netherlands is here on the North Sea. West of Germany, this is Germany, and north of Belgium and France. So that's where the Netherlands is. So it's the size of the Netherlands is 12.927 square miles. I put it for you, although we use the metric system. I just made it easy for you guys. And that's so it fits more than 5 times into Missouri. Just to give you an idea, fits more than 5 times into Missouri. And it has 17.6 million inhabitants. So if it fits 5 times into, at least 5 times into Missouri, so just make the calculation there, that's like 87 million people. The same, if you say have the same population density, yeah, you would have 87 million people just in Missouri. That's what we're talking about. So the Netherlands is one of the most dense populated countries in the world. But it's more, but there's a lot of green. So if you go back to my previous, this was a picture out of my window in my last house in the Netherlands. You can see also there's a lot of green. So the where the urban areas, it's really compact. A lot of high rises. I'm living here in a high rise myself, as you can see. Otherwise, yeah, I would be looking over the water and over the boat here. That's the towboat and the carriage. So and it's a flat area, so you can see here. I can watch here from my window. Could watch about 35 miles, because that's where Crow. It's flat, and that's also what the Netherlands means. Lowlands, nether, lowlands. So originally the Netherlands was not just what we now know politically as the Netherlands. It also included Belgium, what's now called the Belgium. Belgium separated from the Netherlands in 1830. I'll get back to that in a bit. So the Netherlands is a nation of travelers. You see where it's situated. It's right on the sea. So the Netherlands was in its was say, okay, before the UK ruled the waves, Britannia ruled the waves. England, the Dutch were. So the golden age for the Dutch was the 17th century. And just after the Spaniards and the Portuguese ruled the waves. The Dutch ruled the waves in the 17th century. And then later in the 18th century, it were the British that really ruled the waves. So during those ages, Dutch has always been travelers and traders. And because of that, Dutch always spoke the language of the natives, kind of. And still today, so if where I live, you know, okay, how the size is. Where I lived, if I traveled 100 miles south, I had to speak French. If I traveled 100 miles east, I had to speak German. If I traveled 100 miles north, you might say, hey, you end up in the sea. Okay, there's a little part of the Netherlands that has its own language, Frisian. It's like there's a part in Great Britain, west of England, that's called Wales, that has its own language, Welsh. So the same thing. And Welsh and English are really completely separated languages. Same for Dutch and Frisian are completely separated languages, separate languages. Dutch people who are not aren't taught Frisian because only people in Friesland really speak Frisian. They don't understand much of Frisian, like English people wouldn't understand people who speak Welsh if they've not been taught Welsh. And if I would swim 100 miles west, I need to speak English. So that's kind of so I've been in my formative years, I've been taught 6 languages. So that's what and that includes the languages I've already labeled. Dutch, that my primary language. My secondary language is Frisian because that's my mother tongue. That's where my mother is from, is Frisian. I speak it. I don't write it because I only was exposed to writing it, so to speaking it. I never went to school in Friesland, so I never learned how to write it. German, because it's somewhat close to the Dutch. On the east side, that's my 3rd language. My 4th language would be English, and my 5th language would be French. And then I've also been taught at school. I've had a couple of years of Latin. So that's, and then here I'm exposed to Spanish, but that's, I can understand it knowing all those other languages. It's easy to pick up another Roman language. But Dutch is a Germanic language, a German out of the vein of the Germanic languages. So where is Dutch spoken? So Dutch is a Germanic language, which is also known because of its historic ties, as all said, Flemish. Flemish is the language spoken in the northern part of Belgium. It's not a language, it's a dialect of Dutch. So it's the Dutch version spoken in the northern part of Belgium. Belgium is trilingual. The Netherlands is the Netherlands is also bilingual, that you have Frisian in the north in one province of about 600,000 people. Belgium is really trilingual. Flemish, which is a Dutch dialect in the north, and in the south French, and then at the border with Germany on the east side, the German is the 3rd official language in Belgium. Of course, then in the Netherlands it's spoken, and in South Africa, Afrikaans is a Dutch, is rooted in Dutch. I was in South Africa 4 years ago. I'm counting in the mid 2015 or so, and I can speak or I understand Afrikaans, because the South Africa used to be a Dutch colony before the Boers. We had a war between the Boers and the English before it became an English territory. So that's where Dutch is really in existence in some form or the other. So 17 million people speaking it in the Netherlands, about 8 million people speaking it in Belgium, and then you talk about the white Afrikaans that speak it in South Africa. So that's Dutch. So let's just go to some. I've got several slides just to explain one of the differences. So the vowels in Dutch. We've got so we use the typical alphabet, the Roman alphabet, as it's called, and we've got the alphabet. The vowels are 1, 2, or 3 characters. So I'll just go through it, and they're pronounced differently. So, but Dutch is very unlike English, as you probably all know. English, you can see a word and you need to be taught how to pronounce it. In Dutch, like in several other languages, it's very consistent. In French or in German or in Dutch, it's extremely consistent. If you see the word, you know how to pronounce it. So it's the single A, which is called an A in Dutch, pronounces an A, and the double A is a longer A of an A. So we call here a man, which in English is a man. Just easy. So you see also how close it is to some of the English words. Maan, so double A, lange A, maan. And maan is the moon, just referring to. And then we've got here the plural, mannen and manen. So you just see whether it's still an A or an A. And why would you say, hey, A was with double A, and you see manen, which is the plural of maan, the moon, moons, because the syllable, it's the end of the syllable. So in the Dutch, unlike in English, the syllable is ma, nun. So to the hyphenation is between the a and the n in that plural. Ma, nun. That's where the hyphenation would be. And because it's the last letter, the last vowel of the syllable, you do not need to add another a. So if it's at the end of a syllable, then you don't have to double it. You simply know. And it's also with, so if we talk about man, the plural is mannen. There's an additional n in it to make sure it is man. It is short, the a. So we've got also the a. The a is the e in English, the a, and which is in a just a single vowel is pronounced as a of vet, vet. Take, so a long take, which is a tick, by the way. Reden, you see the re is, although it's a single a, it's re because it's at the end of the syllable. Re, done. It's an it's a short e again. So it's an a or an So the last, what I gemeen, which is mean in English, mean, when you're, somebody might be mean, there is a character. Meen, mean. So the difference with I is, so you see that an A, an E, and an O, and an U can be doubles. Does work with the I, because the I, if you have it to make it longer, it's an IE, but it's pronounced the same, almost the same. So you've got a pill, same in, so in English, if it's short E, you probably do a double L. That's how you make it short. So you've got rivier, rivier, a river, just to have a rivier. Plural of pill, pillen, rivier. Okay, so that's kind of what you could there. I don't want to say. Then we've got a vowel that is not known in English really. That's the I and the J together is an I, but an E and an I together is also an I. There's no difference in how it's pronounced. So ijs, reis, you don't hear any difference. There's no difference in how it's pronounced, but it's this IJ, ijs, REIS, reis, all an I. That's a difficult sound for English to pronounce. I. That's how it's pronounced. Then I'm going. Then going to another vowel that's very difficult for English to pronounce. That's the vowel U. U. That's the U. 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 You just try it. U. Where's U? Where is this in your because in your mouth? U. Or an is easy because bus is the same in English, pronounced the same in English as in Dutch. Bus. That's the bus. But U, vuur, if a double U, vuur, fire. U, vuur, or natuur, natuur. It's a very difficult vowel to pronounce. Then the Y is also a vowel. In some words, the Y can also be a consonant, of course. Both in Dutch, it can be a consonant or a vowel. Pajama, pyjama, pyjama, sister. So you pronounce the pyjama or systeem. You understand those those words. I don't have to translate because you really get what those vowels are. So then we've got some other vowels that are very difficult to pronounce for English speaking. An ow, which ow, ow, it's almost like a W at the end. Ow, 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 which is either spelled AU, depending on the word, or OU, pronounced the same word. So we've got blauw, which is blue, rauw, which is raw, koud, it's cold, oud is old. So you see the same word, koud, out, have the same root, koud, cold, old, yeah, out, old becomes, so you see how it morphed into the English language, where those words in English have a Germanic root, like cold and old, koud and out. In Dutch, in German, cold, kalt und alt. In German, for those who are familiar with German, or blau, also in German. There we spell it B-L-A-U, for the color blue. Then we've got a word, a vowel that's also, it's spelled with two different characters, but it's just one. It's the E, the E and the U, reus, which is a giant, or the word keuken, kitchen, keuken, very difficult. Then OE is not difficult because there's also an equivalent in English, is oo. You've got something, oo, there's no problem. Koe, which is cow, book. So we spell book, B-O-E-K is book. Same in English, book, or the plural, put that the plural boeken. Then we got a very difficult one again, ui. Ui. And ui just by itself, those two letters, those two vowels together are even a word, which means onion, an ui. Or muis, a mice. Luis, lice. Fornuis, furnace, sorry. Kuiken, a little chicken. That's a kuiken. So then we've got a vowel that's three, spelled with three different letters. AAU. In the words leeuw, leeuw, eeuw, leeuw, or meeuw, or eeuw. So lion, I'm now blanking on the male. Gull, sorry, a seagull. A male is a seagull. Eeuw, a century. Eeuw is a century. So because one of the particularities, so Dutch doesn't have, like in German, where you've got umlauts, or or in French, accent d'aigu, accent circumflex, all those kind of things that you've got in French. In Dutch, you've only got two things, and they are really to make sure how that we understand, because there can be confusion how to pronounce, to divvy up. So drieën, multiple threes, kind of. We were there with ons drieën, with the three of us. Or I'm irritated, geërgerd. If the umlaut wasn't on there, it might be geërgerd, but to make sure it's two different, it's multiple syllables to separate the syllables. So drie is a syllable, drie n is another syllable. So to denounce that the new syllable is happening because you might be confused. That's how it's why you've got the umlaut. A is to make sure that an E is the E is really pronounced as an A. Een, versus if I wouldn't put the accent d'aigu, the accent on it, it would be un. Or café instead of café. Or hey instead of he. Just to make that distinction. So the consonants, very similar to the English. C can be pronounced as a C, as in cell, or as a K, commandant. The D is like in English, unless the D is at the end of the word. Then it's pronounced as a T. So dood, dead. So in English, you pronounce dead, really a D at the end and not dead. But in Dutch, it becomes at the D at the end of the word becomes a T. But if it's dood and then plural, dooden, then you pronounce the D again. So here's the nice word, the vowel, the consonant, sorry. That is the G, or which is also a combination of C and H, is also pronounced as the same as a G in Dutch. And it's one of those things. It's that's how we pronounce the G or the CH. Goed. So goed. Schaap, schaap. But CH, if it's at the beginning of the word, you can also put chocola. So that's just because it's a borrowed word from another language. So the G of the CH is really, it's a glottal, that's goed schaap. I'm going to the next, just try this. Yeah? So I'm going to pronounce it in Dutch here. Schapenscheerders scheren 88 schapen in Scheveningen. So you really have, I hope you have something bad in your throat or something. But schapenscheerders scheren 88 schapen in Scheveningen. Just try it for a minute. Schapenscheerders scheren 88 schapen in Scheveningen. Okay. So you might say, what's this? Sheep shearers shear 88 sheep in Scheveningen, which is a town in the Netherlands. So yeah, sheep shearers shear 88 sheep in Scheveningen. Schapenscheerders scheren 88 schapen in Scheveningen. So Dutch and Hebrew that I know of are the only two languages where, so Hebrew also has this hat, that guttural sound to it. So
The H in Dutch, hoed, hallo, have, is pronounced the same as in English. So it has air to it. It's not skipped as in other. The J in Dutch is pronounced as a Y in English. So ja. So the J in English is like it has a D in front of it, j, j. While it's more like ja or jas, pyjama. So in English we say pajama, j, j. Well, pyjama. So the ng, same as in English. Lang, gong. So the ng, same. The R is rolling in Dutch, like some in English. I don't hear many people in I would say native, unlike the Hispanic, then they roll their R's more than Dutch do. Oh, more than the American does. Rood, krater, yeah, schreeuw, rood, red, crater, krater, um, schreeuw, a cry out, schrei. That's the Z is really a sharp Z. It's zebra, zin, zeven. Okay, we have already did that. So what are the articles in the Dutch language? So in English, the articles are only the or or an. They're the only articles in the. So, but in like in so it's almost like French or but less than in German. German is far worse than Dutch for those who know German. But de can be both masculine and feminine. So there's no distinction to like in German. It's you've got a der and die. Yeah, der is masculine, die is feminine. In Dutch, it's only de. Yeah. But in Dutch, unlike so, de is very close to the English the. Uh, but in Dutch, you also have a neutral, which is comparable to the das in German, which is het. So we've got het paard, de hoed, de auto. I mean, at the top right, de hoed, the head, the car, de auto, het paard, the horse. Het is so it's a neutral. But if it's plural, it always becomes de. So de is always the plural of any word. De. If you told the horses, it's also always de with the plural. Then you've also the kind un, like or un in English. A friend becomes een vriend. So we don't have like in English, you've got an if it starts with a vowel, the word following, or if it's an abbreviation, then you use un, but we don't have that distinction. It's just een vriend, un. So that's articles. So plural, very standard. So in English, you put an S behind the words to get it plural. It's pretty, yeah, that's what you do. The standard in Dutch is put an en behind it, like in German. So we've got some exceptions, and that's also when the word ends on a vowel, we put an S behind it. So auto, a car, autos. Hond, a dog, honden. So, but you recall going to the first slide, pot is short, to make it potten. You need to put an additional T in it. And the hyphenation is in between the two T's. Potten. A pot is a pot. I deliberately used some examples where the word is close to the English. Poot, which is a leg. Poot or poten. Again, you see the hyphenation would be after the O and in between the O and the T. Po, so it's because it's poten. Kas, which is greenhouse. Kassen, just kassen to keep it short. we put an additional S in there. So that's some of the rules of plural. Pronouns. Okay, so let's just go to some pronouns. Ik, I in English, ich in German. Jij, je, you. Yeah, so so in Dutch you've got jij and je, both, to the you singular, because you in English can be plural and singular. So jij, je, hij, zij, he, she, hij, zij. Wij, we. So you see, very close to English. Wij, we. Jullie, that's the you plural. Yeah, the you singular was jij or je. Jullie is the you plural. Zij, they. So zij can be either a female singular or in the third, yeah, addressing in the third form. And plural zij is whether it's male or female. It's just that group is zij, or we announce talk about a group. Ik werk, I'm working. Yeah, I work. Jij werkt. So you see where we have in the English, you if you have your verb, you only put an S if it's the you're addressing a third party. He works. But in English, it's only I work, you work, we work, they work. In Dutch, it's ik werk, and then the second or the third form gets a T behind it, and the plural always gets en behind it. Werken. So the full verb, so we would say werken is to work, is the verb, werken. Ik werk. The exception is if jij, the second, werkt. If you say werk jij, which becomes the question kind of, do you work? Werk jij? Then the T is removed, which is an odd exception. Just so you know. Okay, counting. Wow, we already did some counting when we were counting sheep. But okay, you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very close to English. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, very close. If I just pronounce it, how you can hear how close it is to English. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Very close to English. 20. But then we get the difference with the English, where the Dutch is similar to German. German 21. 21. In Dutch 21. In English you made 21. You put the one after the count, so 21. 22. 23, 24, etc., etc. Yeah. So then you got 30, 40, yeah, 30, 40, 50, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Yeah, very similar to English. 101, 101, 102, pretty similar. 200, 300, 200, 300. But if you can say 233, 233. So just put 300, 400, 500, 600, pretty close. 1000, 10,000, 100,000, 100,000, 100 and 1,000, 101,000. Okay, where we get the confusion is we switch, or the English, let's blame the English, they switch words. So in Dutch, it's you go from 1,000 to 1,000,000. To in English, you go from 1,000, million, billion. While in Dutch, you go from 1,000, million, miljard, miljoen, miljard, biljoen. So miljoen million, miljoen is a one with 6 zeros. Miljard is a one with 9 zeros. So biljoen is a one with 12 zeros. So billion in English is one with 9 zeros. This is very confusing. We use the same word, but okay. A trillion is one with 15 zeros. Huh? Triljoen. Very confusing. Just there. Okay. So let's go to an example here of just a rhyme. This is just Het wiegje is niet langer leeg. Het huis staat blij te dromen van lachjes, traantjes, kusjes vol, omdat jij bent gekomen. Je moet nog wel wat leren, want je weet nog haast van niets. Maar dat je nu geboren bent, dat is toch alvast iets. Met teentjes, vingertjes eraan, met oogjes die echt open gaan, kleine geluidjes in je keel. En dat is toch al veel. This is kind of an announcement of somebody being born. So, the cradle is no longer empty. The house is glad to dream of little laughters, tears, kisses, because you have come. Jij bent gekomen. Je kan komen. You still have to learn some things because you hardly know much. But now you're born. Maar dat je nu geboren bent. But now you're born. Geboren, born. That's at least something. Dat is toch alvast iets. With toes, teentjes. Fingers, little fingers. Connected. With eyes that really open. Little sounds in your throat. That's really a lot. So that's just a little rhyme. So some things, so typical here, what you see in the Dutch, you see several words that have je behind it. Wieg, je, which is wieg is the cot or the cradle. Yeah, we put the in. Dutch are famous of adding or to make it more endearment, to put the word je behind. In German you also have Mädchen, the je, Mädchen, but so you have several instances in German as well, but Dutch do it all over. Wieg je. It becomes just, the word is wieg, but wieg je, it just makes it more endearable or smaller. Yeah, when I was young, Wim, I became Wimpje. Yeah, just to make it more endearment, small. Koos. So lachjes, yeah, plural. Yeah, traantjes in the third line there. Traantjes, kusjes, little kisses, little tears, little. All words of endear. With teentjes, toes, little toes, little fingersjes. That's for what. So, okay, in closing, before I open it for questions, I know we're already quarter to late. So what are some words from the Dutch into the English language? Anybody a guess? What's the most famous word in the English language that probably we're not fond of? Unmute yourself if you probably, actually it comes out of South Africa. Apartheid. The word apartheid is a Dutch word. Apartheid. Other word, there are not that many words in the English language out of the Dutch. So another word that's not used that most is the alternative word for backpack, which is rugzak, rucksack. which is rugzak in Dutch. So that's another word out of. Then there's some people who are finding, okay, where this word came from. The word Yankee. It comes out of Dutch. And actually, where else would Yankee come from? Because do you have any idea what Yankee come from? It's actually my name, Wim, is a very common Dutch name. Jan, G-A-N, Jan, is a very common, which is John in English, a very common Dutch name, Jan. Kees, which there's not a real equivalent of Kees, is another typical Dutch name. So Jan, Kees, Wim are very common Dutch names. So if you combine the words Jan and Kees, Jan Kees, which was used to when the Dutch, the Dutch, for those who are familiar with the American history, the US history, the Dutch founded New Amsterdam, which is now New York. So all of before we called it, actually it was called the New England, it used to be called New Belgium. From the time Belgium and the Netherlands were still one, so it was not. So New Belgium, so we were Dutch, the Dutch were there. And so the English kind of had this, like you would call, have nasty words for the Germans called it cherries. The nasty words that the English used for the Dutch was Jan Keeses, because those were, everybody was called Jan or Kees, Yankees, Jan Keeses. So that's just one of those words. And that's one of the substantiated theories where Yankee comes from. So with that said, I know it's already 8:15. I open it up for questions. I don't know, Claire, are you facilitating that or how?
Yeah, anybody who has a question, just you can type it in the chat box or unmute. But if no one has a question right now, I will start it off. I was wondering, so you said that Dutch is a Germanic language. So say somebody who doesn't really who only speaks English and they want to pick up Dutch. One, what would be the biggest challenge for that to pick up that language? And two, would you suggest learning German first?
No, I think Dutch is much easier to learn than German is. German is far more complex because it's like, for those who are familiar with Spanish or Portuguese, you've got a lot of those, or any Latin language, Roman language, like Latin. You've got all these ways how a word is construed if it depends on the context. Same as German, far less or hardly in Dutch. So Dutch is much easier in that regard than German is. So learning Dutch is pretty easy once you know how to read it. And then make the connections with English words. So what would be the hardest is to pronounce some of those consonants and especially several of those vowels. That's because there's no comparable in the English language. You really need to. So for any linguist or people, you really start understanding where in your mouth some of the vowels are being produced. You really need to understand where an A comes from in your mouth, where an O, so where an I, what you do O, Y, and how does that fit then in those vowels in other languages, because they all are some part of the mouth that someone who's not familiar with that language needs to figure out. So that's the Dutch language is really pronounced, and that's less than American English.
Okay, so if I ever want to learn Dutch, I will work on my pronunciation first. Well, if nobody has any more questions, I'm going to wrap us up. So thank you again, Vim, and to also all of our discussion participants for being here. We appreciate your time and your willingness to join us for this conversation. If you enjoyed tonight's program, please feel free to support the IRC by texting IRC to our Donate to Give number available in the chat box. I'd like to close by putting a plug in for some of our upcoming programs, in particular, our partner program with the Linda Hall Library happening tomorrow at 6 p.m. and our International Career Series taking place on Friday at noon. And both of these events will be on Zoom. If you're interested in them and any other IRC programs, we encourage you to check out our website for more information at irckc.org. There you can also find a link to our YouTube channel where you'll be able to find a full recording of today's conversation if you would like to revisit. Thank you again so much for being here. Thank you, Vim, and everybody who participated. Please stay well, and we hope to see you all soon.